Welcome to Larry's Library. I'm back again, and this time we're going to take a look at Once and Future, the deluxe hardcover. The version I have is the deluxe edition hardcover slipcased. Now, it's a little more expensive than the regular deluxe edition hardcover, but at the time I purchased it, I could not find the non-slipcase still in stock. So it might still be out there somewhere, hopefully, but as of the time of this shooting, the exact version I have, the slipcased edition, is still available on InStockTrades.com for $55.99, and that's discounted from the list of $79.99. I think Amazon probably has the non-slipcased in stock right now for $35.99, and that one is a MSRP of $59.99. But either way you get it, and even no matter what form you get this in, we're going to take a look at the story and the contents right now. So this thing is 464 pages. Like I said, the slipcase deluxe edition I have is nice build, really high quality. This is by Boom Studios, and their hardcover, their oversized hardcovers seem to be pretty good stuff. About the same, nearly as good a build level, I think, as the Image hardcovers, which are kind of my, preferred format in most cases. So this is book one. It will take one more to finish this out, from what I understand. The creators on this are, the writer is Kieran Gillen, very well-known and fan-favorite writer. I'm familiar with his work at Marvel, but also for The Wicked and the Divine, which I did also enjoy a lot, although it was a little hard to follow for me a lot of the time. A lot of characters going on there, and hard to keep them straight. But that's a different video altogether, which I haven't done yet. But anyway, the art is by one of the best comic book artists currently working today. I'm talking about Dan Mora. And he probably doesn't need an introduction for most of my viewers, but I mostly know him from Grant Morrison's Klaus series. Klaus? Not sure how you pronounce it. K-L-A-U-S, which was Grant Morrison's deal where he reimagined sort of a high fantasy version of Santa Claus, and that was some good stuff. And I loved Dan Mora's art right away, as soon as I seen it, and that's what my first exposure to it was. So this beautiful hardcover collects the first 18 issues of the Once and Future series. Now, if what I read is true, this series should wrap up with issue 30 sometime this coming fall. So I expect we'll get one more hardcover to finish this up. The plot and concepts in Once and Future deal largely with Arthurian stories, Arthurian legend, specifically bringing King Arthur back from the dead. So it certainly bears a more than surface resemblance to the great Camelot 3000 by Mike W. Barr and Brian Boland. If you haven't read that, you should check that out. But Camelot 3000 is very much sci-fi, while this is a fairly dark fantasy horror story. It also turns the concept upside down, as Arthur here is not the good guy. This is all about the power of stories. In Once and Future, we learned that these myths, legends, and poems have literal power. Power to invade our mundane real world, often in scary and violent ways. I'm not going to spoil too much in this wonderful book with too many details, but suffice it to say, we will see monsters, dragons, sorcery, and more. It will help the reader to have a little prior knowledge of Arthurian legend, maybe some Beowulf, maybe a little Aesop fables, wouldn't hurt. But even without that prior knowledge, I think this will be a very enjoyable experience for anyone who's into this sort of genre. While the story and the characters are fantastic, the real star here is the incredible art by Dan Mora. I mean, he was already great in Claws, but he has continued to evolve, and he just keeps getting better and better. I mean, I now rank him up among the greats of all time. He's that good to me. One thing that struck me about his art in Once and Future is that in the really detailed panels, which there's a lot more here than where I last seen him work in Claws, which in Claws, there would be some detailed panels, but there would be a lot that were just sort of bare in the background. Well, there's much less of that here, and I think that's a great improvement. And anyway, in these really detailed panels, in here, and like I said, there's a lot of them. He sort of evokes a Mike Ploog kind of look, and maybe even a little Bernie Wrightson. And for me, that's high praise indeed. Now, the only thing I would fault him on is he really needs to stop trying to draw bullets in flight. He seems to think that a bullet flies through the air with the case, the brass casing, still attached to it. Well, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. You know, when you fire a real gun, a semi-automatic or an automatic, the casing, the shell, the brass case, it spits out the side typically and drops to the ground. It doesn't fly through the air at the target. Now, I don't expect people who draw these books and will even write these stories to be gun experts. That's not what I'm advocating here, but it still kind of boggles my mind that that no one, from the writer to the editor to the colorist, and no one involved did the modicum, the tiny little bit of research to figure out, how bullets work, just a real basic kind of thing, and just tell them that, hey, Dan, the case doesn't fly with the bullet. I don't know. I know a lot of you people are probably, your eyes are glazing over now and think, well, who cares about that? Well, okay, and maybe that's fair. But to me, this just looks ridiculous. I mean, look at this. That's not how that works at all. I mean, when you have a little bit of knowledge, real world knowledge of weaponry, firearms, like I do, it's really hard to ignore that. It's really hard to not just go, ugh. I mean, just ask my wife how it is trying to watch a cop show with me. But that's probably more my hang up than you guys. But overall, this is really fun. This is a great read. Like I said, fantastic art throughout. It just sucks you right in. Great characters. It's delightful. If you're into sword and sorcery, if you like high fantasy, if you like the King Arthur legends and Beowulf versus Grendel and dragons and all that sort of thing, but with a horror slant set in modern times, this is a must-have. I can't recommend this enough. I really can't. And I also got to mention here that this is another thing that my daughter Kristen, aka the Comic Slayer, aka Omnicat, she discovered this long before I did, and she recommended it to me and told me how great it was. And gotta tell you, Kristen is almost always right. Not always, but most of the time she's right. And when she's right, she is so right. She's just super right. So if you haven't subscribed to her channel yet, do yourself a favor, do that now. I will put a link to her channel down in the doobly-doo. And subscribe to mine too if you haven't already, please. If you don't want to miss anything, make sure you bell notify yourself so you don't miss out, because I post some hauls and unboxings sporadically that aren't part of the regular schedule. And so if you subscribe and notify yourself, you won't miss those things. I also have a Patreon. If you so inclined, you want to help me keep this thing going, all that is down in the doobly-doo. And I will see you next week, if not sooner.